What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Doctor Who new series reviews. This one is for Doctor Who Series 13, or Flux, whatever they're calling it, Episode 1, The Halloween Apocalypse. So before I get started, yes, I know, I'm still here, I'm still alive, I've been away for a while. Sorry, I just really haven't been feeling making videos, honestly, recently, until the new series has now arrived. But the classic reviews, I've just not really, I don't know, I feel like it's been taking away from watching the episodes, like having to write notes and stuff for it at the same time. I'm just not enjoying watching the classic reviews, the classic episodes, so I'm probably going to stop doing the classic reviews, maybe even stop doing the new series reviews, although those might come back, because at least with those ones, I've seen the episodes once before, and I mean, I'm still going to do it with the new episodes like this one, because, you know, new content, new episodes, kind of get my initial thoughts on the episode. So without any further ado, we're going on here with the Halloween Apocalypse, if I can even say it, episode 1 for Doctor Who Flux, or series 13. So yeah, let's get started, as we always do, with the cast. So, Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor. She's back again, and I'm still not a massive fan. She was okay. She was okay in this episode. I am definitely beginning to know, I mean, it's kind of always been the case, but it's definitely just the writing more than anything. Although, I do think that some of the characters, and we'll get onto that a bit later, they are generally just, they are still decent, even though the writing's not great. Whereas the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, I still can't gel with. She had her moments in series 12 and in series 11, more so in series 12 though. I don't think she's any better or any worse here, really. She's definitely not at her worst in this episode, that is for sure, but she's definitely not at her best either. So yeah, I mean, she's fine. I'm looking forward to seeing more of her throughout the series, to see where her character goes, but ultimately, yeah, she's alright. Mandip Gill as Yasmin Khan. I mean, I'm kind of just rehashing what I said with Jodie Whittaker here. She's okay. I was never the biggest fan of Yaz from series 11 and 12. I don't think her character was fleshed out enough. In this episode now, she's the main companion, and I mean, well, she's not really the main companion anymore, but she was the only companion with the Doctor for the first half of this story. Probably more than half of this story. But even then, I mean, it was nice having just her and the Doctor. That was good. But didn't see a whole lot of her, and I don't know, I still can't get Yaz. I just quite like the Doctor, and I think it's more of just the way they're written. Really cringy. There's just some really cringy moments, like when she's getting Dan out of the cage. Just some really cringy lines there, and I don't know, I just don't. It's a thing with this era. It's not a thing with the actors, I don't think. It's a thing with the era and the writing that I just find it really cringy. But I mean, yeah, she's okay. And then we've got new companion John Bishop as Dan. I've forgotten what his last name is now, but Dan, I really like Dan. I'm getting Graham vibes from Dan, and I really like that. He's from Liverpool, which is pretty cool. It's fairly close to where I'm from in England, because I was born in England, live in Australia now. But yeah, been to Liverpool. Can't exactly say it's a great place, but a particularly nice place to visit, but it's cool having him. I think John Bishop, I've seen him in a couple of things. He's a good actor, he's funny, and he just fits in. He fits that Graham role. That's pretty much what he's going to be. I feel like he's kind of going to be a little bit of comedy relief, but we'll have some serious good moments in there, just like Bradley Walsh did with Graham. So I'm really excited to see what he can do, because this episode alone, it actually focused on him quite a lot in this episode. That's the funny thing, you know, we finally get, it's only the Doctor and Yaz for a bit, and I think we focused more on Dan, to be honest. But I'm not really complaining, because I think he's a really interesting character, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of him. So now we get onto the good and the bad, starting with the good. The Swarm looks like an interesting villain. Now, I don't know, he might have had another name later on. Honestly, there was a lot going on in this episode, and I've only watched it once. Keep that in mind. This is my once watched kind of review. Once I watch this again, I'll probably have different views on it. When I come around at the end of the series to do my ranking of the whole series, my view may have changed a little bit, even if I haven't seen it for a second time, but I'll get onto all that a little bit later. But yeah, the Swarm, he's a cool looking villain. I mean, when he was, oh god, he was creepy. When he was, you know, in that kind of cell thing, tied up, and you had those kind of guards come over. His voice there was creepy, and the look of him, he was seriously scary. In some ways, I was a little bit disappointed that, when he killed the two guards, he kind of broke free and transformed his look. I actually kind of liked him a bit more before that, to be honest. I think he still looks pretty cool afterwards, but I think the menacing voice from before was just, it was spine tingling. It was really, really creepy. Just the way he looked at you as well, and just, really creepy. Like I said, I think lost a little bit of that once he transformed and got like the spiky bits out of his head. I think he still looks really cool, but I don't know, I kind of wanted to see more of that original version of him, but it looks like he's like the main villain for this season, for this series, so I'm definitely looking forward to what is going to happen with him. Like I said just before as well, Dan seems like a really likable character. I just get Graham vibes from him, and I mean, that's always a good thing. Graham was honestly by far my favourite, not just my favourite companion from the last two series, but probably my favourite character in general with the Doctor. I just really liked Graham. I thought he was actually well written most of the time. Or if he wasn't well written, Bradley Walsh just could kind of work around it and was just still good. And I have that same vibe about Dan and John Bishop, so yeah, really looking forward to seeing him more. We got a little look at the Sontarans in this episode. Now this episode was a little bit of a mashup of, we've got all these new villains, and we've also got a dog, and we've got the Weeping Angels and the Sontarans, which is cool. Definitely cool. This, I can't remember, is this a 6-episode series or an 8-episode series? I have a feeling it might be a 6-episode series, but it's all pretty much one story. So, but with, I'm guessing, little bits in between, but it's going to be a lot more kind of a one whole story than previous series. So we had a little look at the Sontarans in this episode, but the next episode, spoiler alert by the way, episode 2, I think is called War of the Sontarans. That looks like that one is primarily the Sontarans for that one, so we're going to see more of them there, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, we did get a glimpse of the Sontarans here, and I really like the look of them. I never hated the kind of Russell T Davies Sontarans, because they were probably the first Sontarans that I ever saw. I might have seen a couple of classics. I might have seen, like, I think I had seen the time, what's it called? Oh god, I forgot what it's called. The original Sontaran story. I'm having a mind blank. It's not the Time Monster, that's not it. Anyway, you know what I'm on about. I think I might have seen that story before I saw the, Sontaran Stratagem, Poison Sky, but I didn't mind the Russell T Davies Series 4 and beyond Sontarans, but I think these are my new favourite. I really like these, and to be honest, even though I do like the Russell T Davies Sontarans, they are probably my least favourite, even counting the classic ones. I think there was one run of the classic Sontarans that didn't look great, but the rest of them look really good, and these Sontarans actually look more like the classic ones than the new series ones. They're taller, they look taller, they're not these silly little stumpy things, potatoes, like in Series 4, and they just have that black armour and the really disturbing looking head, and I really like these Sontarans. I can't wait to see them more in the next episode, and maybe throughout more of the series, I don't know. The Lipari are taking humans to save them from the Flux. So the Lipari are the dog men creatures. I will say I don't really like the look of the dog people. They look... the main thing that put me off was when he talked, his mouth barely moved, and it was really off-putting because you got a lot of very close-up shots with him for relatively long amounts of time, and it just looked crap. It just didn't look good, in my opinion, but I thought it was cool, man's best friend, or the dogs are actually saving the humans because of the Flux, and they got to get one human each. I mean, not very effective. They can only grab one each. Look how big his spaceship was, and he's only grabbing one human. Doesn't seem particularly effective to me, but anyway, let's go past that. I thought it was an interesting concept, man's best friend sort of thing. I thought that was pretty funny, all things considered. The Weeping Angels, of course, got an appearance in this episode. I am expecting, and well, pretty much certain that they are going to show up in one of the later episodes for more of a main villain episode. This episode was very much just throw a bunch of things in to set up the rest of the series, and I have a feeling that like episodes 2, 3, and 4, and 5, if it is a 6-episode series, which I think it is, I imagine those kind of, 4 episodes in between will be like, alright, here you've got Sontaran episode, Weeping Angel episode, a couple of other monsters, and then the big finale at the end. So I'm guessing we will be getting a Weeping Angel focused episode. I liked the Weeping Angels in this one, or more like the Weeping Angel, because there was only really one scene with the Weeping Angels, and it was a pretty scary scene, but ultimately it wasn't a lot, so it's getting me wanting more. I think the Weeping Angels, I really hope they can do something good with them here, because, to be completely honest, I don't have a whole lot of hope in Chris Chibnall, but the Weeping Angels are one of those villains that I think they worked really good the first time. They worked pretty good the second time, in the Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone. Really good episode there as well. But then when it came to, I think it was Angels Take Manhattan was the next Angels story and the last Angels story. By that point, I don't think they were working quite as well for me personally. So I have a feeling if it doesn't go well this time, it's just like you've got to get rid of the Angels. You've got to stop them, because ultimately I don't think there's a whole lot you can do with them. They've kind of had everything they can have been done. So unless they do something new with them this time, then I really don't know if it's worth it, but it's cool to see them nonetheless. And then finally, the TARDIS leaking and moving the door. Really interesting, intriguing stuff. I definitely want to figure out what's going on with the TARDIS, because it's leaking all this like black oily stuff everywhere. It's generally just not working very well. She was having to hit it with the good old David Tennant 10th Doctor hammer. I like that little reference there as well. And yeah, the door kept on it was never in the right place. It was just all over the place. It was on the floor at one point. I thought that was pretty funny, but I'm also just generally interested to see what's happening with the TARDIS. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. And another thing that I haven't written down, but there were a few funny little quotes in there. I liked the thing at the start where they had the handcuffs on, and they were trying to say, what was she trying to say? Release, to release the handcuffs, because they were voice activated. Of course they were. And she was like, maybe I was Scottish when I set them up. So she said release in a Scottish accent. I thought that was pretty funny. When they eventually got in the TARDIS and she said, oh, what a relief, and then they unlocked. I thought that was a bit cringy, and also kind of like, relief? Why are you making relief? I didn't really get that. It was supposed to be a joke, but I don't know, it didn't really work with me. But I thought the general, release with the Scottish accent was pretty funny. So yeah, there was a few funny little nods back to old Doctors and previous times in this episode. So then we've got to go on to the bad. First of all, this still has the Chris Chibnall feel to it. Now, some people are going to be like, well, what do you mean? You just hate Chris Chibnall, blah, 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 blah. No, it just has that feel. Its pacing is all over the place. Like, that is one of the big things with this episode. It's one of the big things with Chris Chibnall's era in general for me. The pacing's just not there. 1 minute it's action-packed, everything's going on, it's all happening, and then, oh, well, we're going to slow down and have a little chat, and a nice little calm moment, and then we're back to action again, and then we're going to slow down. The pacing just seems a little bit wacky. Really quite wacky in this one. And yeah, it just has that feel of, oh, we're trying to be quite funny, but the jokes aren't really landing, and I just don't really like Chris Chibnall's writing style. I think that's my problem. I know a lot of people have the same issues, so yeah, this is just kind of what it is. There is way too much going on in this episode. Way too much. Like, seriously. When I first watched the episode, and I finished watching it, I was literally sat there on my couch with my hand on my forehead, confused and not really knowing what to think. I generally think I need to watch this a second time to have any sort of idea what's going on, but also, I think this is mainly, it's just a setup episode for the rest of the series, so hopefully once the rest of the series has come out, this episode will be better, because we'll have known more what they're talking about and what's going on. And I mean, they introduced so many characters. They introduced Vinder in this episode, but he just was kind of in his ship and didn't really do much. Just, had the Flux coming after him, that was about it. But he's obviously going to be a bigger part later in the series. And so many characters, so many things going on. just there was too much going on here. And I think the thing is, this episode is either going to get better as the end of the series, as you know, when the series ends, this episode is either going to be better, a lot better than I think of it now, or it's going to be worse because it just hasn't pulled off what it's kind of trying to do. So yeah, definitely way too much going on. And that was my last point. You can't really judge this episode because it is purely a setup episode. We haven't really seen this in, not at least in new series Doctor Who. You know, you have like 2-parters and occasionally 3-parters, but each part in those stories kind of has its own resolutions and has its own things that are happening. This episode doesn't have, I can't think of any resolutions in this episode, because it is ultimately going to be a story that goes over what I think is 6 episodes. So they can't really reveal anything after the first episode. It's all, this is happening, here's this, there's this character, this person's doing this is happening, this, that, but you don't have any idea what any of it means. And it's all happening at once. So it's really hard to judge this episode and give it a rating. So that is what I'm going to do next. So I am going to give it a rating. So my rating for the Halloween Apocalypse, at the moment, and I know this is 100% going to change, 100% this will change by the end of the series, but right now I'm only going to give it a 6 out of 10. Now if you don't understand how my rankings work, my ratings work, a 7 out of 10 is average. I know, it's confusing, you'd think a 5 would be average, but it's not. 7's average. You'll understand if you watch my other videos. So I'm putting this slightly below average, just because as a standalone episode, and that is somewhat how I've got to... It's hard because I'm somewhat trying to review it and rank it as a standalone episode, but you can't because it's a setup episode. But without knowing everything else that comes, it's so difficult. So a 6 out of 10 is what I'm going to give it. If this series ends up being really good and all the resolutions come through and it's all, you know, everything comes together and we understand what's happening in this episode, then, and it makes sense and it's good, I think this could get maybe an 8 out of 10. I still don't think it's going to be massively a high rating, like a 9 or a 10 out of 10, just because I still do think there is way too much going on here. They could have ultimately had a longer series and, you know, drip feed us some information instead of cramming all of it into one episode at the start. So yeah, it's a 6 out of 10, but that is very much likely to change. Could even go down to like a 4 out of 10 if the resolutions end up being terrible, if, you know, just things don't happen like they should happen, or it just doesn't feel right. This could go down even further in the ratings. So it's really difficult, but for now, I'm giving the Halloween Apocalypse a 6 out of 10. So do remember, guys, as always, that this was only my opinion. This was my opinion on the episode. I've only watched it once. I'd love to know your opinions down in the comments below, but please do be respectful of my opinion and of everybody else's in the comments. It's one of the main things I go by, you know, everybody has an opinion. I can hate something that you love. You can love something that I hate. It's all fair enough. We can have a friendly discussion about it, and it's all good. But yeah, 6 out of 10 for the Halloween Apocalypse. I'm excited for the rest of the series because there's obviously going to be a lot going on in this series. So I'm definitely excited for what is to come, but I'm also very skeptical because I know from the last 2 series what Chris Chibnall's like. I know pacing's one of his problems, and I just have a feeling that either there's going to be way too much going on for the rest of this series and it's not going to work, or I don't know, things are going to get missed out and forgotten about and it's just not going to work. So ultimately, I don't know right now. That's why I'm only giving it 6. But I'm optimistically hopeful for the rest of the series. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.